130 pounds. There's also the subject of a brilliant young fighter named Jorge Linares, a Venezuelan who fights out of Japan. Many say he's leaving to move up to 130 pounds. Edwin Valero, unbeaten from Venezuela, and only recently licensed to fight in the United States, rumored to be moving up to 130 pounds. And so increasingly it appears Luevano is looking at a division where there isn't that much competition for him, not many big fights, unless, of course, smaller fighters like Israel Vasquez or Rafael Marquez might move up from 122.
And that could happen too. In fact, it's interesting that most of the top fighters in the world that people are excited about, probably outside of maybe Calzaghe and Lockett, are in the smaller weight divisions.
And immediately you see the style contrast here, although Luevano has come out just a little bit more aggressive than is normally the case. It looks as though Luevano thinks he's got some opportunities to land against the aggression of Santiago, who wants to get in there and pressure the stylist from Los Angeles. And see Luevano holding his ground and firing back.
Santiago is very motivated after a couple of weeks ago seeing his fellow countryman Juan Manuel Lopez win the championship by knocking out Daniel Ponce de Leon, and he is so fired up. And you can see him fighting with so much enthusiasm and speed that he's forcing Luevano to fight a little faster than he normally does.
So it's been a very active first round, and surely one of the most entertaining rounds in any of Luevano's recent fights. He's a guy who normally limits this kind of contact, but you see him getting in close now as Santiago wants to move toward him and fire hard punches. Good body shot by Luevano.
Luevano is punching with a lot more power than I've saw him in his previous fights. He seems to be placing his punches tonight, very relaxed, and trying to punch with more power than he has in the past.
Well, he may be thinking, with all these fighters moving away from 126, if there's going to be entertainment in the division, he'll have to provide it. And he may be thinking, I'll alter my style just a little bit to fill that gap.
And so far, he seems to be doing that. He's punching with a lot more power. And seemingly, he's got the respect of Santiago right now. Santiago is so slowed down and seeming to be out of respect.
Two southpaws firing away at each other. This was the case, incidentally, when Juan Manuel Lopez knocked out Daniel Ponce de Leon at 122 pounds a few weeks ago in Atlantic City. Santiago said, Juanma did it, I'm going to do it too.
But Santiago keeps his head that's a little bit too high when he's punching, and it looked like Luevano is starting to get his range and landing punches while Santiago's head is up in the air.
Good first round for Steven Luevano, who met fire with fire and was the more accurate puncher in the face of Mario Santiago's assault.
Mario, when you go in and he misses, you make him pay. Make him pay downstairs, that's it. Mario, remember that he comes out fast. He comes out fast, remember that. Quickly, counter punch. Quickly, counter punch. Quickly, look lively.
But very smart too, okay? You could outfight him smart. You could outbox him so easy, okay? He's trying too hard. All you gotta do is have fun. Play around, have fun.
CompuBox numbers in round one, numerically at least, support my suggestion that both guys were aggressive, but Luevano was the more accurate puncher. He's given credit for landing 23 out of 70, as opposed to 16 out of 70 for Santiago.
Jim, this is the fight that you and I both discussed earlier and figured it would maybe a boring fight between two left-handed counterpunchers. It's turning out to be anything but that.
Down goes Luevano. An early knockdown for Santiago and a confidence builder for sure.
Okay, there you go.
And that may be the pitfall in Luevano's decision to go ahead and fight fire with fire. He's really fighting Santiago's fight, and he pays an early price, and comes back with a knockdown of his own on a perfect straight left-hand shot.
Exactly what we didn't expect.
Unbelievable.
Both guys are punching tonight.
Hey, bingo.
And the smile on Santiago's face says, okay, you got me.
And they both were the same type knockdowns. Knockdowns where both guys got with a clean punch, you know, but didn't have a lot of permanent damage. And both guys have picked up the pace as if nothing has happened.
Both guys took advantage of the opponent's aggression with counter-punching accuracy.
Both guys are sharp punchers. They're boxers and they're punching, but they're punching with a lot more power than I expected to be so early. Both guys are going for knockouts.
Luevano hasn't decided to alter his style as the result of the knockdown. In fact, if anything, he stepped up his aggression. Santiago landing his jab.
Luevano's last fight, he was knocked down and he had to come off the floor to retain his title.
Going against an ultra-muscular fighter from Korea. His name was Turtsa Changdang. Luevano went down in that fight as well, but also retaliated with a knockdown of his own.
Santiago's head is a little too high, and it looks like the way, even though he scored this knockdown, it looks like it's going to be a matter of time before Luevano takes him out.
Santiago is trained now by Evangelista Cotto, or co-trained by Evangelista Cotto, famous as the uncle and trainer of the brilliant Miguel Cotto, whom you'll get a chance to see on July 26 against Antonio Margarito in what could be the fight of the year. Luevano driving Santiago back into the ropes with another quick, straight right hook inside. Both guys have landed jabs, hooks, and crosses. There's a great left cross across the top by Steven Luevano. And Santiago seems interested in immediately retaliating and gets himself knocked back on his heels again. Much in the manner of Kelly Pavlik in the middleweight division, Luevano is a guy where you look at his body and you say, well, there couldn't possibly be any punching power there. But it's not always about big muscles.
And if you talk to him and look at his facial expression, he looks like a little kid.
But he can whack and he can fight. And we've had two brilliant rounds to start the fight.
All he's looking for is the straight left, all right?
Here you see Luevano kept going down from a short punch, and he didn't do anything wrong, just one little short punch that he didn't even see. And he comes right back up after that, regroups himself, gets himself together. And then he lands a straight, perfect left hand. And Santiago didn't see that coming. He was too intent on being aggressive and trying to finish off Luevano and got caught himself while he was daydreaming.
So knockdowns for both fighters in round two.
I wonder how that round was scored.
That's Santiago's reaction after he was knocked down by Luevano. And that's the classic fighter reaction, the competitor reaction that says, hey, good punch. I got you, you got me. Let's see what happens next. Round three of the scheduled 12, Harold Lederman scored the second for Luevano. Really seems to have more command, although both guys are getting their licks in.
Well, the danger is the early part of the round because Santiago comes out with his adrenaline sky high. He slows down near the end of the round, but anything can happen in the first minute.
Let him up, let him up. Come on, hands free, hands free. Stop, stop, stop.
You're looking for the one thing that most sets these two fighters apart, it's experience. Luevano got started earlier, had a longer amateur career, and has had 36 professional fights. Santiago didn't really start boxing till he was 16 years old. That's a bit of a late start. Only had 40-plus amateur fights. Decided that his style wasn't really suited to the amateurs. Moved up to pro. He's only had 20 professional fights. So Steven Luevano is the more experienced fighter.
And not just in the profession, but Luevano was one of our top amateur fighters. So he started boxing at an early age. He was a national junior Olympic champion, silver gloves, golden gloves. So he has a brilliant amateur background in addition to having a lot of professional fights.
And one thing I always say to Emmanuel, if the talent's relatively even, and one guy started boxing when he was 9 or 10 and the other at 16, pick the guy who started earlier.
But he does things more naturally and instinctively because he's been doing it so long.
There's a level of ring comfort that you can only gain with long experience. which is not to say that Santiago isn't comfortable fighting.
Stop.
No, that's
Clearly
another
he
good
is.
example too, Jim. When you get tired, that's when